Hi everyone, I am Gigio Attanasio. Gigio, it's an Italian name, and I work as product design manager at WorkHuman. Really keep in mind human. I personally don't believe in destiny, but in coincidence. And the fact that at some point of my career I joined WorkHuman, a company that puts humans, even in its name, to me it was a big coincidence. It was a coincidence because actually I spent probably most of my career trying to achieve product design from a different perspective. I always look at users as people, and the difference between people, humans, and users is huge. Actually, users are seen more or less like a flock of sheep, and us as designers are seen more or less like sheepdogs. But now, things sometimes don't go as expected, and our sheeps, our humans, don't behave as we expected. And this is because we are not cyborgs yet. We have emotions, we have feelings, we have relationships, and all these factors together make us different. So now we could deliberately ignore all these factors and design it with knives. It's an easy workaround. It works. Let's work around. Or we can take emotions into account and design with empathy. A few years ago, I was working for another company, and my team and I were asked to design a tablet for children. This guy, I always dream doing something like Steve Jobs, so finally done it. So my career can end today. This guy here. So this tablet made by Kiko or Chico, according to the English pronunciation, which is a famous Italian brand, but it's a leader in Europe. They help families every day with products such as carillons, crates, trolleys, cameras, clothing, and toys. They're well known. Toys, but not digital toys, until the day they decided to make their own tablet targeted for children between 18 and 6 years old, 18 months and 6 years old. And their idea was actually to recreate a digital version of their famous instructional games made to teach the alphabet, numbers, colors, animals, and so on. And at that time, I was an expert in that field, as my instruction labs got about 2 million downloads. And the secret of this success was the fact that I actually got inspired by Kiko. I copied just a little bit their games. And most importantly, I used to test every iteration of my apps with my 2-year-old daughter and her friends. And I used to take notes of their reactions because, they couldn't really give feedback, conscious feedback. And that was very useful because wherever they felt, used to feed my apps. So everything seemed to be good for a great product, And we were very proud of this product. We spent about 9 months to build this guy here. And, everything looked cool, colors, the iconography, the hardware buttons, the voice feedback, which was a great innovation at that time. So children weren't able to read, they could go through the interface by listening to the guiding voice. And then I'd say the anti-slip skin, which is great, especially from a parent point of view. Look, some breakthrough. So for parents, this was great, spending €100 and then making sure that they wouldn't destroy it. So, especially from parents' point of view. Let's watch this commercial.
There's a lot of fun with Kiko Happy Tab. Hello, welcome to the world of Happy Tab. The first real tablet for kids up to 6 years old. Many fun activities developed by Kiko to learn and grow whilst playing. La fattoria parlante. Developing their language skills. The white chef. Creativity. Logic and coordination. And enjoying lots of selfies. And the fun goes on with the augmented reality of Kiko Blocks. Kiko, wherever there's a baby.
And here is where something went wrong, but dramatically wrong. We actually designed a tablet for children where the two handles were beside two of the most fundamental buttons on an Android device. back, and home. As you can see from the pictures, even from the commercial, this is ridiculous. They used to constantly hit the two buttons while they were playing. That was terrible. And so we launched this tablet on the market, and we gathered feedback from the major marketplaces and blogs. And the feedback weren't very good. So the children's experience was reported to be very poor, as they accidentally hit the buttons while they were playing and consequently stopping their gaming experience. So we designed a tablet for children by keeping in mind the role of their parents as buyers, and we took for granted the role of children as end users. Just to give you an idea, it was like designing a B2B2C app, ignoring the role of the end users. That's mad. And most importantly, we didn't use empathy to familiarize with their needs. And what we did was simply producing something nice, and we didn't think to print a prototype of the shell for testing purposes from an ergonomic point of view. And we failed. Now that was very, very, very bitter to swallow, it was a slap on our faces. But anyway, we learned from this experience, and I think I learned that research, and in some cases observation, should be part of every design process. So empathic design can also be used to make stakeholders and clients aware of the problems of their products. A couple of years ago, I was working for another company again, and we actually were working with lastminute.com, which is a travel retailer. They sell hotels or flight tickets and so on. We were working with them to actually review the checkout page of their app. So we ran a workshop, we ran a few activities, and by the end of the day, we had a fair understanding of the problems from both technical and design perspective. But most surprisingly, lastminute.com didn't want us to review the length of the page, and didn't want to consider the length of the page as one of the major issues behind the low conversion rate and the high abandon rate. Yes. So actually, users didn't keep on the page, and so they couldn't really get what their users were feeling when they used to go through this page. So you see, it's a huge information. It's very hard to scan, and they couldn't really get the pain. And so what we did was trying to use empathy to help them to feel what the users were feeling. And what we did was making a picture. So we printed that page and we showed this picture. And the first question was, if the checkout page was a paper document, how would it look like? And when they saw it, they said, oh, it looks like a long foldable papyrus. I never thought of that. And then our next question was, okay, how would you feel to go through a so long paper document, going through every single details for a so trivial online purchase? It could be a flight ticket, a concert ticket, or whatever. Would you really scan every single detail? Maybe not. Better giving up before, especially because that wasn't a contract for a mortgage where details can make the difference for the next 20 or 30 years. So believe me or not, but they allowed us to go through different design solutions and to get rid of the long page. So quantitative and somehow qualitative design, research aim for the majority. Actually, they are based on tasks performed in a period of time. If this may sound a bit aseptic, a bit robotic, it's because, as I was saying before, they aim for the majority. How many times have you heard in a report that the majority of users, of participants, perform the task within 5 seconds, they could find a button, and so on. And so next question is, have you ever tried to think why they were behaving differently? Have you ever tried to understand what they were trying to achieve? And most importantly, have you ever tried to give them a voice? If not, empathic design can give the answer. And empathic design can give a voice to who struggle to verbalize their needs. Actually, the empathic design is based on observation in opposition to research, or in particular to marketing research, which is inquiry. This was another, I'm Italian, I should have added. So I think the superpower of the empathic design is the context, because we observe users, humans, in context while they are using our products. So we can observe their reactions. But most importantly, we have to let things happen. We can't interfere because we need to observe them, you know? It's more or less like the ethnographic research, but it's more orientated on feelings. Then we capture the reactions, and then we reflect on what we saw, and we run an analysis trying to identify the latent and unarticulated needs. Then we gather everything and we run a workshop where we try to design solutions. We sketch solutions, and then we turn these sketches into prototypes for testing purposes, and then hopefully at the end we're going to have an MVE, a minimum viable experience. But let's keep in mind, the empathic design can't replace research, can't replace marketing research. It's just a complement. You know, you can add the empathic design to understand their feelings. Katia Batterby is one of the major experts of empathic design. She worked at IDEO. She was a pioneer in empathic design. She defined the empathic design as an out-of-ego experience that changed the way we feel, the way we think, and the way we act. So now, when we think of the empathic design, we need to understand that we need to actually observe neutrally what happens, and then using empathy to understand their feelings. You know, we need to getting out from our own perspective and then returning to it when we observe with the experience. That's the superpower. Uber, actually used empathic design to understand what their deaf drivers were feeling every time they were trying to establish a communication with riders. And they used empathy to design some solutions. They designed a set of tools such as the flashing notifications, the text-only communication, and a very nice tool to teach how to say some basic words in American Sign Language and the rider's name. They did something incredible. They did something great with the empathy. They actually destroyed the wall. They established communication between two people who couldn't really have communication before. So they used empathy to create an inclusive experience. Imagine the power of empathy in an accessibility context where, as designers, we try to feel what our people with different needs feel, and consequently designing by keeping this in mind. This is way beyond the accessibility patterns. In terms of Uber, but in general for companies, this kind of empathic design doesn't have an impact on revenue. To be fair, could not have a direct impact on revenue, but it can contribute to change the perception of the brand and probably turn the brand into a landmark. What we do in WorkHuman, as Stuart was showing, we are actually introducing empathy as part of our design process, which is called Human UX Framework. It's not a proper design process. I'd say it's more than a design process. It's a tool. It's a set of tools anyone in the organization can use to empathize with our humans. Our humans are clients, stakeholders, our colleagues, teammates, whoever in the company and outside the company. There are few methodologies, few tools we will be introducing. First of all, assuming a beginner's mindset. This is fundamental for onboarding purposes. Every time someone joins a company, it could be a shocking experience. Instead, we are trying to understand from their experience, from their feelings, how to improve this process. Because if you make a question one-to-one, they won't say, they wouldn't really say everything. So we observe, we take note, and then we improve this process for the next iteration, of hopefully trying to achieve the ultimate experience. Conducting interviews with empathy, we actually are trying to use empathy to go beyond the answers. So we try to read what they were trying to say. So empathy is a superpower of our researchers. Observation, we have seen it before. Body storm, so we will be trying to do this role-playing game where we will act as our humans according to what we learned from the previous observation or the interviews. Journey maps, so we will be using these learnings into a diagram to be shown in a context of product usage. And then using analogies to build empathy. We have seen the lastminute.com example. And then finally, and probably this is the most important one, but even probably the hardest, engaging with extreme users, because extreme users are the key for the minority I was mentioning before. So find your extreme users, design for them as well, and you will make sure to design for everyone. And then extreme users are also important from an accessibility point of view. So, to be fair with you, it's not an easy journey. It's taking time. It will take time. Your human is a big company, and it's very hard to achieve a cultural shift. But I think it would be fundamental for this change for a company like Work Human that puts human first, even in its name. Should I say believe in concepts? Maybe. Thank you so much.
Thanks both for the talk. Really interesting. Thank you. This swap around.